Jack and the Beanstalk, a tale of courage and magic. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young boy named Jack. Jack was a kind-hearted boy, but he and his mother were very poor. They lived in a tiny cottage and had no money for food or anything else. To survive, Jack would often go to the market to sell whatever little they had. One day, Jack's mother asked him to sell their old cow, Milky White, at the market. Jack set off with Milky White, hoping to get a good price for her. On the way, he met a strange old man who offered to buy the cow in exchange for a handful of magic beans. Jack was intrigued by the offer and agreed to the trade. When Jack returned home with the magic beans, his mother was furious. She scolded him for being foolish and threw the beans out of the window. Jack went to bed hungry that night, feeling sad and defeated. The next morning, when Jack woke up, he saw a giant beanstalk outside his window. The beanstalk had grown overnight, reaching high up into the sky. Jack was amazed and excited. He knew that this must be the work of the magic beans. Without hesitation, Jack began to climb the beanstalk. Up and up he went, higher than he had ever been before. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Jack reached the top of the beanstalk. He found himself in a strange and magical land, high above the clouds. Jack explored the land and soon came upon a magnificent castle. He decided to approach it and knocked on the door. To his surprise, the door was opened by a giantess, who stared down at him with her big, bulging eyes. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" the giantess demanded. Jack was frightened but managed to stammer out his story. The giantess, whose name was Polly, took pity on him. She invited him into the castle and offered him food and shelter. As Jack ate, Polly told him about her husband, the giant who lived in the castle. The giant was cruel and greedy, and he had stolen all the treasure in the land. Polly explained that the giant had also captured her and was keeping her prisoner in the castle. Jack was determined to help Polly. He asked her to tell him more about the giant and his treasure. Polly told him that the giant had a magical harp that could play the most beautiful music in the world. She also told him about the giant's golden goose, which laid golden eggs. Jack knew that he had to find a way to steal the giant's treasures and free Polly. He waited until the giant was asleep and then crept into his bedroom. There, he found the magical harp and carefully took it. But as he was leaving, the harp cried out, "Master! Master!" The giant woke up and saw Jack with the harp. He roared with anger and chased Jack out of the castle. Jack ran as fast as he could, carrying the harp with him. He reached the beanstalk. And began to climb down. The giant, however, was close behind him. As Jack reached the bottom of the beanstalk, he grabbed an axe and began to chop it down. The giant, realizing what Jack was doing, began to climb down after him. But Jack chopped faster, and soon the beanstalk began to topple over. The giant fell to the ground with a mighty crash, never to bother anyone again. With the giant defeated, Jack returned to the castle and freed Polly. Together, they took the magical harp and the golden goose back to the village. Jack's mother was overjoyed to see him and hear his incredible story. From that day on, Jack and his mother never went hungry again. They lived happily ever after. thanks to Jack's courage and the magic of the beanstalk. And whenever anyone asked him about his adventure, Jack would simply smile and say, "It's amazing what a handful of magic beans can do."